on your dial right now. They see stories every play, every time we're Rob Brown breaking it all down. Yeah. SEC, Sideline Sports on my mind. Rob Brown calling game time, highlight shine, executive mind. Brendan Martin keeping Rob in line. Like, subscribe, share it, tell everyone. Sideline Sports, y'all come back real soon. Same place, same time, same tune. From the booth to the field, every Saturday.
Robert, we are live on your own podcast.
Yeah, sure. I'm ready to go. Hey, a lot of fun today. We're going to talk about SEC basketball. This race, the Gators, it looks like the Gator Invitational, and Arkansas right on their heels. Florida is the best coach, the best roster. And I ain't saying that to placate anybody. If they didn't, I'd say it. I never will do that. They are that good. Are they better than last year? Hell, I don't know, but
I think so.
That's a good competition they have. They got a great coach. Who would not want to play for Todd Golden? Look, got a great one today. Jordan Davis Hill, 247 Sports, covers Georgia. Jacques Doucet, WAFB Channel 9 in Baton Rouge. Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline in Oxford. And Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com, and also the author of a great book, The Golden Season. Take a picture. We're live streaming on 8 channels of Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Share it, like it, subscribe. Like Brendan says, make it simple. Hit the button. You know what to do. All of you that know me or anybody, tell your friends, your family, and neighbors. And love what we got going on. Again, like I said, Jordan Davis Hill, 247 Sports on Georgia. And welcome aboard, as always. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Looking at the SEC basketball race, Lenardi's thinking 10, maybe 11. I don't know about that, but Georgia's pushing. Everybody's pushing. And they're all chasing Florida and Arkansas right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it will be interesting to see how many of these teams get in. And I think it's fair to remember last year I was surprised that 14? How many teams wound up getting in?
14.
So maybe we should err more on the side of if they're close, they're going to get in. But it's interesting, especially where I'm watching from the Georgia perspective. They're on that bottom end. They're part of that group that's fighting to try to make the tournament. You know, they're right there with a Texas, who they play on Saturday. I think that's a must win for Georgia. They're with Missouri, who, to Georgia's credit, that they beat in Columbia early in SEC play. So I'm enjoying the race toward the NCAA tournament. I was talking on another radio hit about, the race toward the end of the regular season. One thing we know, do not think you can go into Nashville and say, well, if we win 2 games here, we should feel okay. Whatever you did at the end of the regular season, you should just feel like that's it, because we've seen the committee in the past just not care about what happens in Nashville. So, for Georgia specifically, they got an important stretch coming up. They play at Kentucky tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know that they're getting that one, but like I said, they host Texas on Saturday. I think that's one they got to have if they're going to keep up in this race.
You referenced that they don't pay attention to certain things. They don't certainly pay attention to what you do in the SEC tournament. That hurts. Does that put more pressure? I think it's a good kind of pressure. I mean, pressure is when you don't know what you're doing. Isn't that what Chuck Noll said of the Steelers? But if you pull off 3 of your next 4 games, you win, and Georgia gets to, say, 8 right there, and then they win a couple in the turn. I don't know. I see Georgia getting in.
I'm interested just to see how this closes out. I think if you're Georgia, you feel good if you get to 9 conference wins in the regular season. That means 4 more wins, which is why losing in Norman over the weekend hurt so badly. That felt like one of the easier wins you could have if you're going to get to 9. I am with you, Rob. I think if they get to 8, there's still a chance. And again, we have to keep in mind that, again, last year, I think we were surprised by the number of SEC teams that got in. I think that 12 was realistic and they got 14 in. But you look ahead, for Georgia to get 4 more wins, they're going to have to find a way to win a combination of games between at Kentucky, home against Texas. Let's see who else they got. At Vanderbilt, home against South Carolina, They host Alabama. They go to Mississippi State. There's a way to get to 4, but losing at Oklahoma, like I said, over the weekend, that really hurt. Now, the good news is they're getting Jeremiah Wilkinson back. He missed last week's games against Florida and Oklahoma. He's been dealing with a shoulder injury. Getting him back, he's their leading scorer. I think if he was not back, they have no shot of winning enough games. But that should be a shot in the arm. And interested to see. I don't think they can beat Kentucky, but I want to see what they look like. If they at least look more like themselves, really on both ends of the floor, then they still got some hope going into these last, I guess, 3 weeks of the regular season.
Leader on the team, a couple of them.
Yeah, Jeremiah Wilkinson, who I mentioned, he's the shooting guard. He's their leading scorer, leads the team in steals as well. Blue Kane, a guy that's been there, done that. He's in his 3rd year. When you kind of look at the rebuild that Mike White has taken on, I think you look at the class that Blue Kane was a part of, and he and Dylan James are the last guys standing. Silas Demery Jr. was so big in last year's run to the NCAA tournament. He's at UConn now, and he's playing fantastic at UConn, but he was part of that class too. And the guy that I kind of look at as like the X factor over these next 2 or 3 weeks, Santos Surreal, the center, sophomore, a guy that at times he looks like, he's well on his way to being an NBA player one day. And then at times he just gets overpowered. I don't know if Brendan watched that game on Tuesday when Georgia and Florida played, or I guess that might've been Wednesday. But I think he had 2 rebounds, and you just, as good as Florida's bigs are, you have to have a bigger impact than that. So watching him these next few weeks, he's dealt with illness in the last few weeks. I think he's had an ankle injury that's hurt him at times, but this is make or break time, and you need your best players to play their best basketball. He's got to be more impactful. He's got to play a bigger role if Georgia's going to go to the NCAA tournament for the 2nd straight year, the first time since 01-02. It's been a minute now.
Yeah, and it is. And look, you look at the SEC, you've got LSU and South Carolina down there. They're a triage unit. They're getting last rights. I don't understand. Lamont Paris, a couple of years ago, they're on fire. They go to Auburn and lose by like 40, and they've never been the same since. All right, switching to, you started over the weekend SEC baseball. I know you love baseball. Your staff, mention the other people. So you are our guy, but Ben Walken, you've got some really talented writers on that site, and people need to know that.
Yeah, for sure. And talking about SEC baseball, I got to mention Olivia Sayers. She's our she's our Georgia baseball beat writer, I should say. And yeah, it was a good start for Georgia baseball. They started 2-1, playing Wright State. Won the first game, won the second game, and then lost the last game. They had to have a doubleheader on Saturday to deal with some weather on Sunday. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I say the same thing no matter what sport we're talking about. But like the SEC this year in baseball is just ridiculous. I mean, I've heard from Olivia and some of the other people who cover baseball that they really like this Georgia team, and the SEC coaches picked them to finish 9th. And I don't think that's a diss on Georgia. I think that this league is just super ridiculous. And I think what it bodes well for is getting several teams to Omaha by the time we get to that point in the year, and health matters and all of that. But Georgia off to a good start on the baseball diamond, but still some things they got to figure out. I think they like what they did that opening weekend, but they still got a ways to go.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love SEC baseball, and we talked to Coach Butch Thompson a lot, and he's so kind to come on here with us, and I'm going to get him back on in the next week. And you look at the interest in there, and the World Series in Omaha. I think you saw the 8 teams that are predicted to get there, and you could finish 9th and host a super regional in the SEC. I mean, or at least a regional for sure.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be that kind of year, and I think it's going to be the kind of year where we're looking at Omaha and we're like, wait, didn't that team finish like 6th in the SEC? Like, it's a lot. It's not 1-to-1, but to me, college baseball with where it is right now, it can kind of be like the NCAA tournament in basketball, where it's like, well, did you get hot at the right time? Did you just put it together when it mattered? I think about that Ole Miss team that won the championship. I don't think they were all that great during that regular season. If you put it together at the right time, I mean, heck, as an MLB baseball fan, I think about the Braves the year they won the World Series in 2021. put it together at the right time, win a few games, and see who's the last man standing when it's over.
All right, switching gears, you mentioned Major League Baseball. We're hearing salary caps and all that kind of stuff. In 21, Liberty Media paid the Braves. Billy Roberts, my friend, roommate over in Atlanta, he's a Bravesologist like my son-in-law, Tyler. You all are. Braves Nation might be, along with Cardinal Baseball Nation, the smartest baseball fans on the planet. But Liberty paid the Braves roster, I think, $147 million, and the Dodgers were at $250 million. So how is that? I mean, life's not fair to begin with, but kind of explain that, because I know you're a baseball. No, everyone wants to be at the Battery.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're getting ready to see a lockout in baseball because of the disparity. I think after this season, we're going to see a lockout as some of the teams push for a salary cap. And I just look at it from the Braves' perspective. I am disappointed with their inability, it seems, to spend money. And the season hasn't even started, and I'm about as down on the Braves as I've been in several years because they didn't go out and get a pitcher, and they've already got Spencer Schwellenbach hurt. Hurston Waldrop, the former Florida pitcher, he's dealing with elbow soreness, and we're just past Valentine's Day. So I don't know. I can just speak from the Braves' perspective. They don't want to spend money, and hey, my wife is a huge Dodgers fan, so we have these fights constantly. Yeah. But I'll give the Dodgers this: they've got the money, and they'll go spend it. I think some of the problem is some of these owners are not willing to spend. Now, they can't spend like the Dodgers can, but teams like Atlanta can spend more money than they are. They're unwilling to, and I think we're going to see a fight that's probably going to be several months long about what they want to do to fix it.
Be fun to watch. All right, let's talk quickly football before you got to go, and let people, of course, know how to follow you. You put out tons of great content, but the Dogs, back-to-back SEC champions. That ain't easy to do. And this year you got Gunnar Stockton coming back. Take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a team that is going to get a lot of buzz once we get into the summer as potentially winning the SEC for the third time. But the goal for Georgia now, they want to do that, but they want to go further. And I think there is frustration within the program that they haven't, that they've lost in the quarterfinal of the college football playoff the last 2 years. The thing that I would say, if you're a Georgia fan, if you're down after, basically doing the exact same thing 2 years in a row, win the SEC, quick exit from the playoff, that defense last year was very young. And when I look at, talking to folks over on Dogs 24/7, I think it was last week, I always do a Friday Q&A, and someone asked me the players I'm excited about. And there's a lot of them, but the majority of them are on that defense. I think this defense has a chance to be special. And when you look at the Georgia teams that have contended for championships, for national titles, the two that won it, fantastic defense. I think they got a chance to be really good. Appreciate you guys having me back on dogs247.com. Junkyard Dogcast podcast. We'll have another episode of that, 12 p.m. Eastern time today. A lot to talk about. And, it's a quieter time of year, but we still got stuff going on, and it keeps us busy.
Well, it's like this. If you're not doing the stuff that we're doing day to day on this show and your job, your career, your profession, you're not going to be ready when the stuff gets here. So one more kind of out there for you. You look right now at SEC baseball, the popularity of it. What's the ceiling this conference? What will people be willing to invest in their baseball programs? Because especially if Major League Baseball shuts down.
Yeah, I mean, I think my thing is I always do the Field of Dreams thing. If you build it, they will come. If you build winners, if you bring a product that fans want to go watch, then they'll show up and they'll support it, and you'll get folks out there. I always think about a few years ago when Ole Miss and Mississippi State were really rolling. Now, even when those teams are not at the level they were then, it's a big deal in Mississippi. But I can remember tuning into some of those games, and it had like the energy of like an MLB playoff game. Yeah. And I think you can get that. And like you said, that might be a real opportunity for college baseball. If there's not MLB baseball next year, you might have a whole new group of fans tuning in. And I do love where the league is right now. I think you see a lot of investment. And I think you're going to see that during this season. I think you're going to see – we're going to come out of weekends and say, wait a minute, that team beat that team. They took that series. I think there's going to be a lot of kind of like in the NFL, you look at even the best teams, they've lost games here and there. I think you're going to see that this year, but I think it's a product of a league that's in really good shape, and I really like the future of the league.
Yeah, absolutely do. We always love it. Thanks more than you know for sharing your time, and let us know what we can do to help you grow your brand. Have a great week.
All right, appreciate you guys.
Always. Hey, we've got Jacques Doucet coming in here right now. Jacques always has one of the best sets of any guest that we have, and don't take anything for granted. I always like to say this. My friend Mary says it is thanks more than you know for sharing your time with us. And speaking some Cajun French, fluent Cajun French. Your father is fluent in Cajun French. I love that LSU nation. I've seen the parts of the SEC special, kind of the teasers about your bro, Coach Bro, Jody Bro. What's her first name? Dee Bro. Yeah. Gymnastics. That is really a cool story. And also, I want to ask you, you know where Ponchatoula is? How far is that from Baton Rouge?
About 35, 40 minutes. It's right there around Hammond.
Okay. I know we've been just bashing this kid, TJ Finley. I read a story in The Athletic about him, and I hope everybody does. It will change. The kid's already got a degree in business marketing from the Harvard College, the Louder School of Business at Auburn. He's got 3 kids. I mean, he's in his 3rd year of medical school, but no, it's a great story. Did you know TJ before all this started? Did you ever talk to him? Okay.
Well, he, in high school, we covered some of his games and some of his 7-on-7 and whatnot. And of course, he started his career at LSU in 2020, the COVID year, the year after LSU's greatest team of all time, the 2019 Dream Team with Joe Burrow and all those guys. Eventually, TJ started a few games, and then I think he was on the team, and he transferred out, went to Auburn, as you know, and then I think he went to 7. He's been to 7 schools altogether. The Advocate, the local newspaper, wrote an article about him and detailed some of the things you talked about, the fact he has children he's trying to pay for and so forth. I think his best year was at Texas State. He had like 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and then he left there. So, we'll see. Where is he now?
Incarnate Word in San Antonio. That's where Cam Ward was, threw for over 6,000 yards before he transferred to Washington State and then Miami.
Got you.
Pretty cool.
Ricky Williams, the former Texas and Saints running back, had coached there maybe some. I think that's Tom Benson's school, the former Saints owner.
Yeah.
Who passed away years back. I think the field might be named after him or something over there. But, I think that's where he went to school, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it's a cool story. If anything, this kid's not a quitter. I mean, I'm going to tell you what, he's like a salesman. You get kicked in the swimsuit area 100 times. One guy says, I'll take 100 of them, and kind of makes things.
Oh, there it is. Okay, I see what you're doing there. Yeah. Well, I knew plenty of guys that were in college for 7 years. They just didn't play football. So.
That's right. Hey, I did 6. I was redshirted twice, but I graduated. I walked the plank. All right, what's going on down in Baton Rouge right now? Don't understand how the basketball program with 2 wins. John Brady comes on the show on Thursdays with us. He and Chris Blair, he's the color analyst. Chris Blair's the play-by-play guy. Yeah. And by the way, remember Tiger Vision back in the day?
Oh, absolutely.
There would be a game going on, and then there would be like an insert on the bottom of your screen, Tiger Vision. I think that'd be a cool story. I'm just throwing something out at you to go back where we used to be for TV.
Yeah, well, before, obviously, way before the SEC Network, where you could watch everything either streaming or on television, and before the rise of ESPN, and certainly you remember when you got cable for the first time. I think we had 12 channels or something like that. And especially when LSU football wasn't any good with Curly Holman. I think one year only 2 games were televised, and you would get this thing called Tiger Vision for $49.95, kind of like getting WrestleMania or whatever, the pay-per-view, and then you sit there, and there was something romantic about, is it going to work or not? And sometimes it would work and sometimes it wouldn't. And then it was a broadcast of the game. And then I think they did for basketball too. Sometimes you pay $12.95 or something to get a basketball game on certain games. But certainly I remember that. I think that was a vision of the former LSU athletic director, Bob Broadhead, in the 80s, who was a really good, if you look at his resume, did some really good things at LSU, hired Skip Bertman, hired Sue Gunner, hired Bill Arnsparger, hired Pat Henry, hired a lot of great coaches, but he was very abrasive, and eventually they ran him out. They fired him. But I think Tiger Vision was one of his ideas.
Well, it was a great idea. And Brendan, you and I all do. Is it going to work? Like a live satellite feed that would be sponsored by the local TV and electronics store back in the late 80s and early 90s. And you'd go to for about 5 seconds and it would seem like 5 days. All right, Jacques. We're not going to talk too much about LSU basketball unless you've got some highlights for us.
No, unless it's the women, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, you can. Absolutely. Hey, it's all LSU. So tell us what's going on with Kim Mulkey's team. Obviously, gymnastics is a superpower, as well as baseball. Jay Johnson's already won 2 national championships, and he's been there, 4 years?
He's entering his 5th year. So,
okay, it's
5th year in the last 3 years. Yeah, we had a real busy weekend on the LSU campus. Friday afternoon at 2:00, the baseball team opening day. They're doing daytime games now early in the season, which I like. They're trying to stay in the heat of the day. Of course, it's been very warm, so the weather's been good. So baseball opened on Friday. They won 3 games against Milwaukee before the weekend was done. They played Kent State last night, won that game, so they're 4-0. Gymnastics had a meet Friday night against Auburn, had over 11,000 fans in the building. Kaylin Chio, LSU super sophomore, got a perfect 10 on the floor. LSU scored a 198-325, which is a huge score. And then on Saturday night, the women's basketball game of the week, LSU hosted Dawn Staley and the South Carolina Gamecocks. And kind of what it's been for LSU, unfortunately, a great game, playing to a standstill, down to the wire. South Carolina makes the plays at the end. LSU doesn't, and South Carolina wins the game. So those are just a few things going on the LSU campus. And obviously today is Mardi Gras, so lots of people down in New Orleans and across the state of Louisiana having a good time, including, Lane Kiffin. I mean, I guess they're really testing his sobriety. He's down there in New Orleans around all these crazy New Orleans folks having a good time. But and then Sean Payton, the former Saints coach, they showed him. He was on some parade routes catching beads. So a lot of people having a good time today on Mardi Gras.
Well, I'm getting a lot of pictures from friends like Wes and Becky Craker that live down there. They're from Memphis, but they've got a house there in the quarter. And Frank Duffy, Frank's been down there for about a week and a half. I don't know what his BAC is, but he's having a damn good time. And you know what I'm doing tomorrow when I go to Ash Wednesday Mass for Lent? I'm giving up talking about NIL in the portal, except when absolutely necessary. And that's because Brendan said, hey, let's talk more about the games and what matters. So we're going to stick to that. And
you have to give up something you enjoy. I don't think you enjoy talking about NIL and transfer portal. So it needs to be something like, Coke or candy or coffee or, something that you got to have. That's Jesus, he was out in the desert suffering. You got to suffer a little bit.
Hey, I'm an Auburn fan. I'm suffering, man. 6 straight years, but it's like 89 to 94. LSU, 6 straight losing seasons, and you're going, how does that happen? It shouldn't happen. What's going on with football right now? That portal class, if it's not the best in the country, it's LSU or Indiana. How do you want your million in 20s or 50s?
Yeah, well, we got the dates of spring ball. I think they're starting on March 24th, if I'm not mistaken. The big question in the media is if we're going to see anything, if we can go watch any kind of practice, or he's going to shut the whole thing down. We're not. Our hopes are not high in terms of, or expectations aren't high in terms of what we're going to be able to see. So, they took 42 in and out of the portal, 3 quarterbacks. They signed 15 or 16 high school kids. So you're talking about 60 new players altogether. You're talking about, I think, at least 13 new coaches when you count Kiffin. So obviously spring ball is going to be very important to learning the offense, getting some timing down. I think these quarterbacks, Sam Levitt and the others, are going to have to really kind of work on their own, work with the receivers, get the timing down, learn the offense. And it's a dynamite schedule for LSU, as I think I've talked to you about. In terms of who they're playing, where they're going. I'm really excited about the schedule. You open at home against Clemson. You got that crazy road game at Ole Miss, which could be a little dangerous for for all of us, Lane Kiffin, there's so much animosity online between LSU and Ole Miss fans after Kiffin leaves Ole Miss to come to LSU. And then, home games against Texas and Alabama, road trips to Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas. So it really is a dynamite schedule. And if you're an LSU season ticket holder, you're going to get your money's worth this year. I think in this new 9-game SEC, you're still going to get some rental wins here and there. LSU's going to play some state schools, cut them a check. But a lot of those games are going to go away. People, they don't want to watch that stuff anymore. And it's hard to, over the years, LSU, had some historic slip-ups where they lost to Miami of Ohio in 1986, the week after they beat Texas A&M. But those games really don't happen anymore. Those teams cannot threaten the big boys. And so there used to be, the Appalachian State opened the year beating Michigan that year. Yeah. I think that was 2007 or whatever.
Yep, it was.
That doesn't happen anymore.
Well, interestingly, North Dakota State's coming into the Mountain West for football. They got to pay $5 million, used to be $500,000 to leave and go up, and it's going to be football only. What makes the sport so exciting, March Madness at least, is the possibility of upsets. I mean, everybody loves these except when it's your team. We've only had University of Maryland, Baltimore County beat Virginia when they were a 16 and they were number one.
16-1. Lots of 15-1s, 14-2s. Yeah.
15-2s, yeah. All right, quick question. How about that last quarterback transfer from Arizona State at LSU? That worked out for sure.
Yeah, well, the big question is his foot, Sam Leavitt. He's supposed to be the leader of your team, and he's got playoff experience. 2 years ago, he played with Scattaboo, right? And they had their run. He's been a dual threat guy. He's got the Liz Frank injury of the foot that caused him to miss basically half the year. He's not going to be practicing, so to speak, scrimmaging or anything in the spring. He can throw. So I guess the question is, is he up and running for the first game of the year? Matt Mock, who quarterbacked LSU's 2003 national championship team, this is going back 2 decades. He had the same injury in 2002. I think your co-host may remember LSU in 2002 went to the Swamp and beat the Tar out of Florida. I think that was the end of Ron Zook or
the beginning of Ron Zook, his first year.
Beginning of Ron Zook. And Matt Mock was in the game late when LSU's up 36-7. And he broke his foot, basically, and LSU season went off the rails. The next year he came back and he led LSU to a national title. But the point of my rambling is he told me that the next year, although he passed for a lot of touchdowns, his running took a hit. He went from like a 4.5 guy to like a 4.8 guy because of the Liz Frank. So hopefully modern medicine's a lot better. Sam Leavitt recovers a lot better. But that's the question there. But yeah, he's I'm assuming LSU paid $4 million for him or thereabouts, maybe more. I'm not sure exactly, but you're hearing that maybe LSU invested even more than $40 million into this roster. It's crazy. I mean, I live in a neighborhood that's probably above my means. I've had the same job 25 years. I've got 3 or 4, maybe 6 LSU football players who are now living in my neighborhood who are 18, 19 years old, whose parents are living there. Brand new cars and all that stuff. That's just maybe that's the way it's always been. Now it's just out in the open, but
perfectly normal. I tell you what, a person I know that has, you think about this. If you got an 18 or 19-year-old kid and you're giving them $500,000, $1 million, I mean, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen with my clients in 35 years. I promise you, you can't do it. But focus, Rob, ADHD, OCD, all right, let's get back to the games. Lane Kiffin, he seems like he's getting out and engaging a lot with the LSU fan base. That is a state that is so passionate, and it's Fat Tuesday today. And I mean, it's going to be just absolute bedlam. You think Lane Kiffin might be on one of those, crew floats in the carnival? I mean, in Mardi Gras, just possibly throwing out some doubloons and
he was beads. He was the grand marshal. He was the grand marshal in one of them.
Okay.
And then I think he was at Endymion, the big one in the Superdome Saturday. And here's this guy. He's got on a white LSU football jersey. number 3. He's got a hat on backwards. He's got beads. I mean, this is like polar opposite Brian Kelly. I mean, Brian Kelly would not be down there with these people doing all that.
No, he's from Boston, Back Bay.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. What? No, that's what Brian Kelly would say. Everyone's different. I mean, I'm not dogging. I'm just saying that this is a lot different from the previous coach. So,
what would Coach O say about it?
You know what? I think Coach O might say something along the lines of, "Hey, Jacques, my one piece of advice for Lane: you go to the parade after you win games, not before." He might say something. He might say something like that, but you go to the parade after you win, not before. So, yeah. But we'll see. We'll see how it all goes. But look, I think it's great. I think that he's making the effort to. I think Lane is a little withdrawn, so I think he's stepping out of his comfort zone to do that kind of stuff, and so it's good.
Well, one thing, people that are introverted, some of them in public, you put a mic and the lights on them, they open up. But I dated a person before that was an introvert, and it didn't work out. I mean, because it was just a 180, But to me, it's easy because I was forced as a kid to meet people all the time, traveling and going to the Capitol and whatever. It's different for an 18, 19-year-old kid. Then you throw all that other stuff in there. It's crazy. All right, before you go, a couple of things. LSU football coming into the season opens up with Clemson. Clemson's going one way. They signed more guys in the portal this year, 9, than they had in the previous 5 years combined, which was a total of 6. Last year, I watched that first game. LSU wins 17-10 up at Clemson at their Memorial Stadium, their Death Valley, and I was like, I don't think either one of these teams has any offense.
Yeah,
it was weird.
I think at the end of the year, they were both playing a bowl game on the same day, and they were both 7-5, and they were both out of the playoffs. So I take nothing away from LSU winning the game. It was still a huge win, but they didn't build on it. And it seems like Dabo, for all he's accomplished, and certainly a future Hall of Fame coach, gets up at these press conferences sometimes and just goes off the rails. It feels like, last year, like he was that one press conference when he was like, y'all want to fire me, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, no one wants to fire you, or, no one with the brain, you've won 2 national titles. You've done all this stuff. I mean, maybe the drunk guy gets on Twitter who's mad after they lose, says fire the coach. But, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think that's the case. So, yeah, he's said a lot of crazy stuff, it seems like, lately. And so we'll see how this season goes for him. I don't disagree with his stance in the past about the portal and everything. I kind of, in some ways, wish that it was the same that it was. But think about this, guys, the other day. If it was the same as it was, if you're struggling, you're kind of stuck with those guys, right? I mean, it's like you either got to develop them or you got to get the new guys from high school. And now it's like, okay, if you're not doing your job, get out. We'll get some other guys who can. So I don't like all the coming and going. I'd like to, I like the fans to get a little more attached to the players, but that horse is out of the barn for sure.
Well, it's a stock trader mentality, a hedge fund manager, money manager. Now, you do quarterly, what's called window dressing. You'll notice at the end of the quarter, there's a lot of selling or a lot of buying. It's all big in one way, not both. And that's where we are. Jacques, what stories, before you go and let people know how they can follow you on Twitter and the media, but what is a story that people ain't talking about nationally at LSU that you, being boots on the ground, can tell us about?
Well, I'm working on a few features. I did a sit down. We're going to do a half-hour show March 18th on the 20-year anniversary of LSU's last Final Four team in 2006. That reached the Final Four in Indianapolis, that beat Texas A&M, Duke, Texas. Sat down with John Brady, Tyrus Thomas, Tasman Mitchell, Daryl Mitchell. We did a big sit down. We're going to air that on March the 18th. I'm doing a feature that's going to air Saturday on Patrick Wright, who's been the voice of LSU women's athletics for 35 years. That's going to air this week. I'm doing something on Kim Mulkey's daughter, Mackenzie Robertson Fuller, coming up. Those are 3 kind of off the beaten path things that I'm working on. But then obviously we're covering LSU day to day. John Eads, who covers LSU baseball on the ground, is going to Jacksonville, Florida this week. They're playing 3 games over there. Gymnastics, number 2 in the country, is going to number 1 Oklahoma Friday. Softball's been struggling a little bit. So a lot going on. Men's basketball, we didn't really talk about them. I don't know if Matt McMahon's coming back next year or not. Yeah. Seems like there's some momentum that he will be back. Verge Osbury obviously is LSU's new athletic director. So, there was kind of the first stage where he landed Lane Kiffin as the head coach and got over that big hurdle, big victory. Now he's got some other things with men's basketball where they're at. Softball, some people are grumbling about that. So those are just a few things happening in Baton Rouge. You can find me on X, Twitter, at Jacques Doucet, my name here on the screen, my Facebook page, and we are WAFB TV.
And Mr. Bornay would say before an LSU home football game, say it, and I'll let you go.
Let's see. What does he say? It's Saturday night in Tiger Stadium, and here come your Fighting Tigers of LSU.
But the sun finds its home. Doesn't he say when the sun finds its home?
Yeah.
In the Western?
Ladies and gentlemen, the sun has found its spot in the western sky. But yeah, I should be able to recite that. Chance of rain, never. Like he would say, chance of rain. He paused, and the whole crowd would scream, "Never, never rains in Tiger Stadium." I learned quickly in 1988 when LSU played Miami and got beat 44-3 that it was a Hurricane 5.
That was 1988. Yeah, I remember that one. Hey, Jacques, we'll see you next week. Have a great one. Thanks.
All right, Rob, Brendan, talk to you guys later. See you
All
later.
righty. Brendan, I got to ask you now, and let's put the book. Franz is going to be on here with us in a minute. Yancy Porter, hopefully Rebel Yell Hotline in Oxford. But Franz and the Panama hat, Franz is not only a great writer, and there are 2 that I think of that write with the same sense of urgency when they write about college basketball that they do when they write about college football. I'm looking at one of them, and the other one has a show on this channel. Scarbo knows Kevin Skarbinski, a proud native son of Pottsville, PA. Franz, first off, thanks so much for sharing your time with us. Yancy Porter ought to be on momentarily, but let's talk some basketball. You wrote a great book, The Golden Season, and we're going to put it up here, let people see it. Hey, folks, exercise your brain, get off your ass, and start reading. And read this book. It's a great investment. You know what? You will read it again and again and again. But when people walk in your home or your office and they see that book, the coffee table book, they'll say one thing. At least he can read. He's got both ears and all of his teeth. Friends, 19-6, the Gators. We talked about the parallels last year. Gators go on the road February 7th, pound Auburn, never look back. This year, it's the same thing. They go on the road and pound Texas A&M. There just is another gear that the Gators are in right now. It looks like to me.
Well, they are finally a cohesive unit. And it should be understandable because you added a new backcourt to a team that lost maybe the best backcourt in the history of the SEC, when you think about it. In Elijah Martin, Will Richard, and of course, Walter Clayton Jr. You lose 3 guys like that are all in the NBA, and you replace them with 2 new guys. And it took a while for the Gators to get their collective act together. They'd turn the ball over. They'd miss opportunities for assists. They'd miss shots, everything. Now, all of a sudden, they're making shots. Now, all of a sudden, the roles are quite defined. Boogie Fland is the point guard. Xavier Lee is the off guard who will play the point when Boogie is on the bench. They play great defense. I think Ken Pom has them as the number 5 defensive team in the country. Bart Torvik has Florida number 3. So they play incredibly good defense. And now, all of a sudden, the scary part, they're starting to make shots.
Yeah, and that was a criticism people tried to say, and you hear it a lot, Franz. They can't shoot the 3. They can't shoot from the outside. But when you shoot a lot of 3s, you got to have a great perimeter rebound game, don't you?
Well, I made a joke. I said, when they miss a three, somebody ought to get an assist because somebody like Ruben Chinulu gets it, picks up the miss and sticks it back. So, believe it or not, this is a stat that people have overlooked. Florida has actually made more 3-pointers than their opponents this year.
Well, that is definitely overlooked because that doesn't fit the narrative. Let's bring in Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, folks. You can catch it Monday nights at 6 p.m. on your dial, AM radio, 56, Sports 56 WHBQ in Memphis, and also all over on Super Talk, 2 syllables, folks, Mississippi. Yancy, I hope you're getting better. I know you've got the bubonic plague. You feel like crap, but thank you for coming on. Don't have you on video today. I understand the circumstances, but you're so damn good. You got so much good stuff to talk about. But I got to ask you, what's happened with Chris Beard and this Ole Miss basketball team? They were so strong in year 2. I thought this year they'd really bust through. They certainly don't seem to lack talent.
I question that. I think they do lack some talent. It was a poorly roster construction. They just did a bad job. I mean, there's some talent, but if you have 8 third basemen on your team and they're all really good, it's not a very well-rounded baseball team, right?
Yeah.
They just they don't have any leadership. I think they do lack some talent. They got a couple scores, but there's no chemistry on the team. They're just a very, very bad basketball team.
Does Chris Beard, people are going to start asking, is he going to stick around? Ole Miss is giving him everything he needs, I would think, financially. Is that true or not? He just seems like a kind of guy that has a plan for every minute of every hour of every day of his life.
That's a good question. Yeah, he was given everything financially. I think he's the 6th highest paid coach in the country right now. So if he leaves, he's going to have to take a pay cut. But that doesn't mean that he won't. Because it's going to be more difficult going forward. He got a very large sum for his roster this season, and it's going to be hard for him to get that kind of money next year, I would think, because the success that football's having, the type of baseball team and program that Ole Miss has, and they've been neglected, the baseball program, for the last 2 or 3 years, believe it or not. And they're going to have a Omaha type team this season, but they got to get that NIL right over there at the baseball program. And Chris was given everything he needed and some this year. And to come back to some of the alumni and the university and ask for that again, it's going to be difficult for him to get that again. He might say, "The heck with it. I'm going to go to a basketball school." Right? Those aren't SEC unless it's named Kentucky. There's only one basketball school. Florida's got a hell of a program. There's several good programs in the SEC, but there's only one basketball school in the SEC, and he might go to a basketball school because I've been talking about this since revenue sharing started, right? That this is really going to hurt the SEC because SEC is a football conference, and that revenue sharing is going to go to football. 13, 14 million is what they're saying. Kind of the average is going to go to football in the SEC out of the 20 million. So that leaves you about 6 million. 2 million goes to the past players from 2000, I think it's 18 on up. So that leaves you about 4 million for the rest of your programs. So the basketball schools, the Georgetowns, Villanovas, St. Louis's, Marquette's, Syracuse, all these traditional basketball programs, they're going to say, well, out of that 20 million, we're going to give 14 million to basketball. So it's going to drift. That's why you're already starting to see a little bit of the SEC from last year to this year. They're still going to get in so many teams this year. I think probably 8, 9. They were talking about 12 at the beginning. I think it'll sell around 8-ish.
Yeah.
Get in, but there are a lot of loopholes this year where you could get that NIL in, and so people like Beard and some elite coaches around the country, they might start drifting away from the SEC and try to get to those traditional basketball schools because they know that's where the money's going to be.
All right, Franz Beard, agree or disagree? Yancy's got always great stuff.
Well, Ole Miss lacks a dynamic point guard, and they lack somebody who they can get out there and know will play great interior defense and get them 10 rebounds a game. They don't have that. They've got. He makes a great point. You got some scorers, but you don't have that guy that directs traffic. Florida, for example, you cannot press Florida. People have tried it. It ain't gonna work. They are, of all the teams in the entire country, they may be the hardest one to full court press. So, and then they got rim protectors, they got rebounders, etc. Makes a big difference. But you got that guy that you give him the ball and you clear out, and he breaks the press. He gets people in the right place, and that's Boogie Fland. I think he's the most underrated point guard in the SEC and maybe in the entire country. And Ole Miss is liking that. The schools that win are going to have no problem getting money. And I can tell you that right now. Kentucky will outspend everybody. We already know that. They got a $22 million roster right now. And I'm looking at their schedule. They're 8-4. They're a loss away from not winning the SEC. Florida's got such a great situation. Florida is 10-2. They got 2 games this week that I would venture to say they'll win by 20 or more, and that'll put them at 12-2, needing only with 4 games to go. You split those 4, and I think they'll do better than that. But you split those 4, and they win the SEC at 14.
Yeah, that would be huge. And Yancy, you talked
Brett,
about this.
Let me ask you a question there.
Yeah.
You said all the schools are going to get the money that they need. We all know that football drives the boat in the SEC. Kentucky, I agree. They will probably give 12, 13 million to basketball out of their revenue share. There's only so much now you can pass through that NIL structure. How are they going to get? What did Florida spend on their roster this year? Let me ask you that.
I think $9 million.
$9 million. Okay, so going forward, do you think these SEC programs can, without giving more to revenue sharing the basketball, keep up with the basketball programs in roster construction?
Well, first and foremost, you got to have a coach who understands how to construct a roster, and that let's start at the foundation of it all. Florida's got the best in I think in the country in Todd Golden.
At $9 million, you certainly did.
Yeah, but you got to have the right coach who understands roster construction and understands you build up it to a certain extent. You got developmental guys, and then you bring in supplemental guys in the portal. Money's always going to be there. Kentucky can say, okay, we'll give all 20 million to football. And you know what their boosters will say? We'll take care of the basketball guys. They always have taken care of the basketball guys.
Yeah.
They always will. I don't know. Yancy, if you ever get a chance to be at Kentucky and see what's called Wildcat Lodge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wildcat Lodge makes the Ritz-Carlton look like Motel 6.
Oh, yeah. I've been to it.
And
Kentucky's a unicorn in the SEC, though. That's what I'm saying. I mean, there's a big difference between 22 million and 9 million with Kentucky and Florida.
But Florida needed more. Florida's got people. Florida doesn't have the gazillionaires like Arkansas has. Arkansas's got only God has more money than the Longhorns. Only God and the Longhorns have more money than the Aggies. only God, the Longhorns and the Aggies have more money than the Sooners. And then you got Arkansas right there.
Yeah.
Okay. But Florida's doesn't have the gazillionaires, but we got a lot of millionaires, and we got a lot of people who whatever Todd needs, Todd will have it. Okay. And you're going to have schools like that. Tennessee, I think, is the same thing. For example, Alabama, they've always spent money under the table. They'll always spend money under the table. It's Alabama. It's in their inherent nature. Auburn looks at Alabama and says, they cheated. They're one up on us in NCAA violations. We got to go out and cheat some and get some, and even the score. But I think the Aggies, Alabama, and Auburn are the three most penalized schools in the history of the SEC when it comes to NCAA violations. How Kentucky is not there is beyond me, but that's okay.
Yeah, and I do think, Yancy, you're right about this revenue sharing, basketball, the unicorn, and that's also been the downfall of the ACC. Like Ellis Johnson says, holding on to the 800 SAT score, and Chapel Hill maintaining this narrative that college basketball is king. And that has turned the ACC into, they're struggling. I mean, and basketball is not what it was. Football's not, man, it should be. It should be. They're in a talent-rich area. But, guys, this is interesting stuff. All right, here in the last 7 minutes or so, you heard, they needed 9, they got 9. If money can solve it, it's not really a problem. I've been told that a lot in my life, but it can also solve other problems. If you've $22 million on that Kentucky roster and they're not the dominant team in the league, A&M spends more money than anybody along with Texas. Again, they're not winning championships. No. So, Yancy, what kind of appetite do the Ole Miss fans have right now? They're looking ahead to football. Let's look at that. You got.
Yeah, it's all football and baseball right now at Ole Miss.
Yeah. So spring practice is about to start. Gators are going to crank up. I heard John Summerall. I'm gonna get John Summerall. He's a great. That's the one I wanted. I think it was the best hire in the offseason. But man, the SEC, I think this fall is going to be a lot stronger than most people are going to believe. Starting with Ole Miss, let's talk about the roster. And Trinidad will play. They ain't going to keep him off the field.
Yeah, that's already done.
Yeah.
That's 100% there. And I think that his lawyers wish they would appeal. It won't come up before the end of the season, but it's something that they would like to. I don't think the NCAA wants to open up those can of worms with other cases that it can open up if an appeal is made. Of course, it's going to be back in the Mississippi courts.
Yeah.
So Trinidad's going to be the quarterback next year for Ole Miss. That is 100% certainly right there. With that said, they're anything less than competing and being in that championship game is going to be a disappointing season for Ole Miss. This is going to be the most highly anticipated season since probably 1967-68. You got to remember last year, they were hoping to compete to get to the playoffs, but this year, it's championship or bust.
All right, Franz, you've had a chance to talk to a lot of coaches in your time. Talk about John Summerall. I know some fans are asking questions on the chat sector over here. I'm impressed with him, and he's just got a hoarse, raspy voice because he's very intense guy. And if you don't like being pushed, I would not want to play with him.
I had the opportunity to spend 5 minutes with him Saturday, halftime of the Kentucky game. I went out to my car to get a book for Hugh Hathcock. And as I was coming back, guess who's getting off the phone? and that's John Summerall. I had 2 books with me. I was planning to give another one to somebody else, so I gave him one. He recognized the hat, and he said, "I know you." Yeah, okay. So we talked for 5 minutes, and this is the guy that Florida needs. And when I say that, we spent 4 years with Billy Napier, and we have no idea who he is. We know that from Sunday to Friday, he did everything you could dream of for his ball club. But he never came to grips with the fact that you win championships with maybe 10 Boy Scouts and 75 borderline psychopaths. And anybody who says differently, you're living in a fantasy world. I mean, you got to take guys off the street that otherwise, that if it weren't for football would go to prison. And you got to, because it's a violent game and it demands violent people. But here's a guy in John Summerall who knows this, but he knows the fan base, and he knows that the Florida fans need to know who's in charge. We need to know about his wife and his kids and his family and what he thinks about life itself. And he's made himself available to do that. He's done more in 2 months than Billy Napier did in 4 years, as far as that. And the fan base is so. If Billy had done this, the fan base would have been far more forgiving. They weren't. They're not. If they're already looking at John Summerall and saying he's going to win, it's just a matter of how long, and we'll give him the rope that he needs to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's just neat to get to talk to a coach. Yancy, I'll ask you this, and I'll let you go. We got a couple of seconds here. Have you had a chance to talk to Pete Golding? You probably know him.
Yeah, he lives right down the street from me.
Okay. All right.
But no, yeah, I mean he's he had to hit the road in a total sprint, right? It's
Yeah.
he has a lot going on, so they're just. It was one thing after another. You take over the coach and you're in the playoff run and as the head coach, and then sign a day and then portal window there. Then Chambliss, the questions about that with the court date hanging over. Now that's over. And, you got official visits about to crank up and been on the road evaluating and spring practice. And it's just, I don't think he's had a chance to really catch his breath yet. That won't start until after the football camps in the second week of June. And then he'll finally be able to kind of compress a little bit and play a little bit of golf with his kids and be a normal human for a bit.
Well, look, great stuff. Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com. Buy the book, read it. Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline. Also, Oxford Magazine, folks. It's a great magazine. You read this, be a subscriber, have this in your office. It's a sign of class and intelligence, like Yancy is. Yancy, I hope you get over this cold that you've got. Franz, love the parrots in the background, but we'll see y'all both next week, and I appreciate your time. All right. Let me say something about our sponsors. You got to get a vehicle. Landers Ford right there over my shoulder, folks. LandersFordMemphis.com. They are open every day of the week except Sunday. Brad Bellamy is the general manager. Kent Ritchie, the owner. Don Kitchens, president. They're presenting title sponsor of the Touchdown Club of Memphis. Their name's on 6 stadiums in the Mid-South. They're everywhere. Great corporate partner. Kent Ritchie voted one of the top 8 Ford dealers, owners in America out of 10,000 for all the great work he does. Hey, also right down the street from Hewlett and Dunn. And let me say something about these Pro Athletes Hemp Association. Hempforpros.com. Lights out gummies. 25%. Use the promo code Sidelines for 25% off. They've got energy. They've got chill. But the pain, roll-ons and the gels and the lotions, they really work. They will make you stop. I use them with injuries, pains. They absolutely work. Go to hempforpros.com. Aches and pains. You want a good night's sleep. That's their store. HewlettandDunn.com on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. All your boots, your Barber, your Filson, STS. They got men's and women's, kids' boots. They got them for 2-year-olds. They're great looking. Hey, and let me say mytownroofing.com. Get out there, get your roof checked before it caves in. Hey, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We're blessed beyond belief. Thank you